Hi, it's Amy Hooper, and I'm going to be taking you through our self paced version of Something Borrowed, leveraging pre designed lessons from a variety of sources. Our learning targets for this particular training are to learn the best practices when choosing pre designed lessons, how to properly vet pre designed lesson sites, how to choose pre designed lessons based on grade level, content, and standards, and to explore the different ways pre designed lessons can be integrated into lessons and classroom instruction. So, the first question I would like you to answer before we begin the training, and what will happen and throughout the video here in Edpuzzle is a pop up box will appear. You will need to answer all the questions throughout the video before you can progress to the end. So, the first question that's going to appear, and you will need to type in a response, is: do you currently use any pre designed lessons? And if so, where do you currently obtain them from? What websites do you use? So go ahead and share your thoughts on this question in the pop up box that will appear in just a moment. So the entry activity and the kind of, I guess, platform I'll be using for this training is I'm going to be using Lucid Spark. So if you've done any of our trainings in the past with Lucid, hopefully you've used Lucid Spark. If not, I'll be showing you some of the tools that we'll be using. So I'm going to provide you with a link to Lucid Spark. And you'll be kind of going along. You'll notice that there, from the previous training, the last live training that I did, there will already be some responses there. So you can feel free to add your own. If you don't really have anything to add, that's okay. You can kind of see what's already there. But with this particular activity, it was just coming up with an idea of kind of what are the pros behind using pre designed lesson sites and what are some of the cons that are associated with using pre designed lesson sites. And the question that I wanted people to think about is: if you don't already use pre designed lesson sites on your own, what have you maybe heard from other people? What are the good and the bad about using them? If you have used them yourselves, or if you've heard other teachers that have used them and talked about them, what have maybe they've mentioned about the ones that they've used, and what have they talked about what they like or dislike about using them? So, again, a box is going to appear in this Edpuzzle training. It's going to provide that link to the Lucid Spark board. And so it's going to bring you over to it, and you're going to see. And what I did for this particular Lucid Spark is I created 4 frames and a pathway. So it's going to kind of take you through in order the 4 different frames that you're going to go to. So you go to the first one, which is just the general pro and cons of pre-designed lesson sites. So you can join me over there by clicking on the link that's about to appear in the pop-up box. All right, so here we are in the Lucid Spark. So hopefully you're able to bring it up on your own computer, in your own browser. So here is kind of the last training that I did live, um, and through our Google Meet session. um, we came up with a list, or the group came up with a list of pros and cons. So you can kind of read through. Some of the pros that they came up with were that pre designed sites can help them kind of, start the process of, coming up with some ideas. Down here, finding some cute and creative ideas so they don't have to recreate. No need to reinvent the wheel. They're quick, time savers, efficient, effective. You can get to some different ideas, and that they're just kind of some easy go to time savers. Although there are some cons to using some pre designed sites as well. One of the big ones, and that's one of the things I'm going to kind of model or show a site. It wasn't really well received because it is one that you do pay for. Um, but it is a site that I think it has all the things. When I talk about, like, vetting using a pre-designed site, it has all the things that you really want to look for. But with that comes the big one that kind of pops out to me here on the cons is cost. So that's one thing you want to look for before you know, sign in for something, or like, oh my God, this is great. Is there a cost associated with these pre-designed lesson sites? Um, Also, the ideas of looking at, does it meet all the needs? Does it meet your students' needs? Is it designed for your student or school? What about consistency and quality? Does it have everything that you need? But about vocabulary, something they message. Can you edit it? Something, especially when you use things such as where you're using Edpuzzle for these self-paced videos. Um, are you able to edit the videos, such as style, being at student level, customizable, might not fit into content area. The one that I am going to particularly look at and kind of get into here is called Gizmo. I'll tell you that. And it's specifically for math and science. So obviously, if you don't teach math and science as your content, obviously that would not be one that would fit. And just, and if you're having trouble viewing, down here in the lower right hand corner, we can zoom in on our Spark board here. We can use two fingers, or we can tap up here and change to the hand to kind of move our Spark board around. So circumstances may not match specific classroom students, not always the format that works for my students. So those are just some of the pros and cons that this particular group came up with. Now, if you would like to add any pros and cons that you can think of to this board now that you're in it, you can feel free to grab over here on the toolbar. You click on the sticky notes, you can drag one over, you can drop it in, a cursor will show up. You can type whatever you want onto the sticky note. When you're done, you can click on it and you can move it wherever you'd like to on the Spark board. All right, now I'm going to head back over to the PowerPoint. You're welcome to join me back over there, and we're going to continue through the slideshow. All right. So we're going to read through the excerpt on the right. This comes from the article Why I've Stopped Using Teachers Pay Teachers. Now, in the live training that I did, the opening question that was asked about what pre-designed lesson websites do teachers typically kind of gravitate towards or obtain their lessons from. In some of the live trainings I did four total. And a couple of them, a lot of them express using Teachers Pay Teachers. It was something that when I first started teaching, probably the first couple of years that it was a site that I found, and I was like, oh, there's all these great worksheets that I can just, some of them, were actually free. Some of them I paid, a little bit for, like, maybe $1 here, $2 there. But once, you pay for it, you're able to make, as many copies as you want, of course, of it. Um, and I thought, as a new teacher, this is a great, easy way to get some materials in my hands. But I came across this article, and also someone also had mentioned the same thing to me, and I was like, it kind of opened my eyes to um, actually starting to really look at the websites that I was going to obtain pre-designed lessons. And the main paragraph that stands out is about this greatest concerns around using a site such as Teachers Pay Teachers. That ultimately, my primary concern with products on Teachers Pay Teachers revolves around the legalities of copyright infringement, the morality of teachers repackaging the ideas of others by throwing some shiny clip art on the author's work and claiming it as their own. What is the message that we are sending, and was the example that we are showing. So I'm going to include in the Edpuzzle pop-up box, I'll include the link to the entire article if you would like to go there to read it. You don't have to. But it was just one of a good example of making sure that when we go to use pre-designed lessons or go to websites, that we're not um, going to sites that allow basically, I guess, anyone to just promote work without making sure that it's original work of somebody that is able to pass it off as their own, that they're not stealing it from somebody else and putting their name on it. Um, and so there's just a lot of different things I think that we could be thinking about as we're looking at pre designed sites. And so I started to really kind of think about that. And someone mentioned the site Gizmos to me. As I said, Gizmos is a site that you do have to pay for. It is math and science primarily, but there are a lot of good things to it. um, I think that maybe warrant some of the cost. But I mean, obviously, there are a lot of great free sites out there that are available for teachers well, and I'm going to get to some of those towards the end. Commonsense.org is a website that's great when it comes to helping for students and children navigating the web and for advocacy for media and technology. So they did also have an article, and I will put the link in a box, pop-up box on Edpuzzle here that you can click on and read through if you like to. That spoke pretty highly about Gizmos and using it. So even though it does come with a cost, it is a site that is well thought of in the world of pre-designed lessons and for teacher usage for teaching math and science online with simulations. Um, so for the next activity, what you're going to do is you're kind of going to go through a gallery walk. So what I did is I kind of took some things that I thought were pretty positive. There are maybe some things that I thought of that warranted some, questionable, maybe not so positive things about gizmos that you might and things that you might even want to look at when you're looking at even other pre-designed lesson sites out there. So what I would like you to do is go ahead and head back over to the Spark board, and we're going to take a look at that gallery walk. All right, so we're going to move over to the gallery walk, and I'm going to zoom back out. So back down to a little smaller. So you'll see 4 different exhibits here. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So our first exhibit shows you the fact that there is, I'm just going to slide actually this one down, that there's a few different ways actually that you find gizmos. And gizmos are when you get into gizmo, they're basically just the lessons that you post to your classes. And gizmos, and I can show you this in just a little bit, is set up a lot like, to me, in a way like Google Classroom is. So if you're familiar with Google Classroom, you create your different classes. You can have up to 40 students within each class join it. You get like a join code and everything for the students to use. And then you can assign them already these pre-made lessons though. So instead of creating a assignment like you would in Google Classroom, you have ones that are already pre-made for you and you just assign them to the classes. Now you can find these different gizmos or lessons based off of either searching through grade level or topic, or over to my right, I have standards, or you can just go through their online digital textbooks. So Exhibit 1 and Exhibit 2 show you the 2 ways in which you can search for these lessons or these gizmos to add to your classes as lessons/assignments for the students to complete. So again, math and science content only, but then they break it down for by grade level. They do have grade levels 3 up until high school, so till up until grade 12. So if you're K through 2, unfortunately, there's not much that's offered or anything that's offered for Gizmo. So that might be a con here already for you. But then they also do um, break it down again, kind of by more by topic here under each grade level. If you're looking for a particular topic within that grade level, then you'll find it under each there. And then we have these Washington Standards. So you can go, you'll look up your state, and then I'll break it down one for each math and then for science. It's also ranged by grade and then top grade and topic for the science, for the NGSS here, and then broken down by grade as well over here for the Common Core and the disciplinary core ideas as well here. So those are the two screenshots I took from there just to kind of show you how you can search. Looks like someone put a little arrow in there for me. I'm going to just delete that. And then this is how I was kind of explaining earlier how it to me is very similar to Google Classroom in a sense. You can have multiple different classes. They kind of set up as like little tabs up here so you can click. So actually to me, like I liked it a little bit even better than Google Classroom, how you don't have to like go out to a different screen to see all your different classes. You would just click on the different tabs at the top to toggle between different classes. But here where it says class roster, that would show how many students are listed in your class. So you can have up to 40 per class. You can manage the students in your class. So you can like add and remove, depending on if you have students that join or students that are no longer in your class. When it says add gizmos to your class, that means add those lessons or those pre-designed lessons. And then here's what I meant by the browsing. So you can either go by the textbooks or the grade and topic. And then you can kind of search through the community for some recommended if you're still having trouble, or some shared gizmo lists that other maybe teachers have used. They also have a running list of helpful articles if you're having trouble kind of using gizmos. And then would be that sample class enrollment code that you would give out to students too. You can also manually add students to your class. And then if you were to click on this, if this was live, they also have a nice kind of like PDF that you can send to students to help them like sign up for your class as well, like instructions on how to do it. Um, so I think, uh, even though like one of the big things when I was like sharing this with the live was like, oh, you're sharing something that costs money. Yes, but also you have to look at what you're getting as far as, I mean, it's keeping track of a class roster. I mean, it's everything that Google Classroom has. Plus, it's giving you, instead of you creating your own assignments, it's giving you these simulation assignments. So they're actually like, if you're doing, for example, forensic science, it's giving you kind of a virtual um, like fingerprinting lab to do with students. So I think Gizmo's a pretty cool site. However, we're going through, so the free trial, you do get a 30-day free trial with Gizmos. They have the help center, but you kind of want to read through some of these things. Kind of pointing out things such as you provide us for permission to collect, use, or disclose the personal information described above for children under 13. If you would like to withdraw your permission, make sure so you have to read through some of the things about the privacy policy. So I'm just making sure that when you're using things like this, when you're doing some free trial, especially with students, that you're reading some of the information that they send to you. All right. So after kind of going through, and you can spend more time on this gallery walk if you like to, but I just kind of wanted to walk you through it as well and explain some of the things that I took pictures of. I also have a pros and cons over here of gizmos, and we can go through gizmos a little more, so you can always come back to this. But for the live training that I did most recently, just a few of the pros and cons they took away. They liked that that was broken down by standard, that it was sorted also by the grade level, standard or subject. Classes were customizable, that they actually showed the state standards. I guess there was also a teacher whose husband works in Mukilteo. They also that actually does use um, gizmos, and so they guess that it is a pretty decent self-design or pre-designed lesson site. Parents and students can also access the site together, which is nice. And the class is customizable. Some of the cons, um, doesn't really give a lot about the membership details. The one thing it did tell me is that even when the membership expires after that 30 days, is that there's a library of like resources, and that never goes away. So even if you want to sign up for Gizmos, give it that 30-day trial, maybe not really use it, but just have access to that library of resources afterwards, that might be something. Remembering to withdraw the personal information for students over 13 shared automatically. Grades 3 plus was a drawback for those who teach K through 2. I understand that. Security rating does kind of come out with a warning, probably because of that personal information aspect. Again, the collecting personal information. Not able to really get the sense without, and that's why, you don't really get the sense unless you jump in and do that 30-day, free trial. So let's go ahead and continue through our slideshow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to our next one. So I gave the class enrollment code. Not many people signed up for it. I know it's another thing to sign up for. It did kind of give you the student aspect for it. But I'm going to jump over to Gizmos. So my homepage looks like this. I can find gizmos again. It gives the gizmos by the academic standard, by that grade and topic. So those were the two views that I showed. So by standard, and that gallery walk was number 2. Exhibit number 1 was by grade and topic, and then it also has by the gizmos the textbook. So if we click on textbook, you can actually find maybe the textbook that you are using, so by your particular publisher. So if there's a textbook that you use, you can kind of coincide your textbook in your classroom with the gizmos available here. So correlate with your textbook. So that's really, I think, pretty cool as well. So compare up with the textbooks. So again, we can go back to our classes. What I did, I created 4 classes, one for each training on each of the 2 days. And then what I did is I just did an actual lesson. So I found a gizmo, I put it in the class, and I assigned it. So this is kind of what it looks like. You have the lesson materials. They come in like 3 versions. So a PDF, they have MS Word, and I guess what's newer is they're also available in Google Docs. It comes with both a teacher guide and vocabulary sheet. So it gets assigned to the student. You can get some things from the community as well. Some user recommendations from other teachers that have used the lesson. You can add it to a class. So it's been added to my April class. You can do a video preview.
Hi, my name is Allie Legra, and we're going to dissect a gizmo today. Ready to move on from the game of operation?
And then when you're ready to launch the gizmo for your class, you can go ahead and launch it. I talked about the library. So you wouldn't be able to actually have like the classes where you launch the gizmos, but you can actually be able to browse through their library of sources, even if you don't have your active 30-day free trial going. All right. So that's just a little bit about gizmos. Again, I think if you're interested in it, or you want to explore a little bit more, sign up for the 30-day free trial, give it a little bit more exploration, um, and see if it's something you want to explore. For this part of the self-paced training, I'm going to have to do it a little bit differently than what I did for my live training. For the live training, I did breakout boards through Lucid Spark. I realized because this is a self-paced training that it's not going to work because I'm not going to be able to launch the breakout boards when you are taking the training. So on the next screen, it's going to break down the 6 different options that are available to check out for self-design. So we kind of picked out the best self-design options we thought that are available out there. So your options are going to be Google Applied Digital Skills, Chromebook App Hub, Newsela, ReadWorks, TED Ed, and or Edpuzzle. So for the live training, we allowed teachers to choose one of the 6 available. You are welcome to choose one or as many as you want to check out. I'm going to go to the next slide and just kind of run down the 6. I have a brief kind of description, and then I'll kind of just also launch into my own little suggestions and description as well. So, Google Applied Digital Skills is a place for students to learn digital skills. They have kind of just prepackaged lessons that you can bring students right to the site and just kind of launch the lesson. They did just come out with some new math ones. So, if you're looking for something and math is your content area, and maybe you're a little upset that I showed you Gizmos and it's a paid site, Google Applied Digital Skills might be a great option because it is free. And they do have some pretty good free video lessons. So you might want to check that one out. Chromebook App Hub, I will say, does have some apps that do cost some money. So just keep that in mind. However, they do have a tab called Ideas that are a collection of lessons that teachers have created. And like Gizmos, they break things down by not necessarily grade level, but by age level and by content area. So this is the one thing that I do like about Chromebook App Hub. So um, Newsela and then ReadWorks are both kind of more pre-designed lesson sites that incorporate kind of reading comprehension. So you can use Newsela to help elevate curriculum that's authentic, accessible. You can create different reading levels to help make it more accessible for different students with different abilities, and it's standards aligned content as well. ReadWorks is helping with America's reading comprehension crisis and their student achievement gap. It is driven by cognitive science research. It has world class content and teacher guidance. They have integrated tools that help to improve teacher effectiveness and help with student achievement as well. And then TED Ed and Edpuzzle are my 2 video based self design lesson sites. Edpuzzle, obviously, we're using this here for our self paced classes. You take videos from places such as YouTube, Khan Academy, Crash Course, and other places, and you can insert questions, insert links, multiple choice questions, open ended questions, notes for students, and make it really interactive. TED Ed's basically the same thing. Um, TED Ed is either kind of slide based video, or you can actually take actual TED Talks and make them more interactive by inserting multiple choice questions or open-ended questions, or actually have students launch into maybe more research beyond the video itself. Um, so it makes it more interactive as well. So I'm going to put up the links to the sites in a pop-up box here. So a notes pop-up box in Edpuzzle. So you'll go ahead and click on the one that you want to explore. I think if you want to go ahead and do more than one, you would have to go back in the video and replay it. But choose at least one, explore it. You can go ahead and pause the video and then come back to us and continue on with the kind of ending questions for the video. So I'll go ahead and put up the list of sites, and you can click on the one you would like to know more about. So now that you've explored the website, what were some things that you were looking for on that website, and what did you consider that was really important to look for? So go ahead and answer that question in the dialog box that pops up here on Edpuzzle. You'll need to respond to it before you can move on with the video. So the last task that you'll need to take you back to the Lucid Spark board, and it's our last activity on that board, is basically kind of summarizing up what overall for pre-design lessons, what do you think is beneficial? What do you find not beneficial about using these kind of sites? And is there anything else that teachers should consider before using them with students? So I would like ideally for you to place at least one idea under each column using a sticky note. So go ahead and go back to that Lucid Spark tab and join me over there. So that would bring you then over, if you're on our path, to number 4, the summarizing activity. So just as a reminder, toolbars over to your left, you can grab a sticky note and bring it over here and drop it into wherever you'd like it. So again, 1 for beneficial, another sticky note for something you found not beneficial, and anything else that we should consider with using pre-designed lesson sites. All right. Now, just so, since you're taking this self-paced course and you didn't get an opportunity to see it, as I said, in the live course, I used what was called breakout boards. Those are down here on the left-hand side of my toolbar. To use breakout boards, I would simply hit breakout boards on my left. That would open up the ones I already kind of pre-designed here. Students taking or that are on this collaborative board would hit join in the upper right-hand corner. I already put an image in for each one of the different types of pre-designed courses. You can see some of the sticky notes that are available to that teachers kind of jotted down notes. And here I also created links. So we'll jump into one just for an example to kind of show you. So say they chose TED Ed as the pre-design website they want to explore and learn more about. They joined the breakout board for TED Ed, and because they didn't have access to my slide presentation, once they were in the breakout board, I had the link to TED Ed right here available for them. So clicking on this little chain link gave them the hyperlink to TED Ed. Simply clicking on that then brought them over to TED Ed to start exploring. And then the breakout board gave them the opportunity to insert their own sticky notes to kind of make notes. So this is a kind of a great tool to use with students to kind of split them up. similar to breakout rooms for on Zoom. But I like it better because if we go back to the main board here of Lucid Spark, you can actually kind of have a little looks. You could, if students were actually in here, I could see what they were doing all at once. And if I saw something kind of going on that didn't seem right, or if I wanted to jump in to help, with anything, I could join a board for a brief moment and then jump out back to the main, see what's going on, and then jump into another one if I wanted to. So again, if you can just complete the summarizing activity for this, and that's how kind of breakout boards work. Let's head back over now to finish up the slide presentation. All right, so just kind of an overall, some findings from our March 29th. You can just kind of see some of the work that they did on March 29th. And then April 12th was our second training following the spring break. A lot of this you saw as we were working through this training, since I didn't take it down. So you saw some of the ideas, some of the pros and cons. Of course, there was a lot more sticky notes that were added to TED Ed in the breakout room. So some trainings, I just kind of left them. They started off with some notes and then those were built upon. So you could always do that too. You could allow classes to share a Spark board as well as a breakout rooms, and kind of allow multiple classes if you teach secondary to kind of build off of one another in those breakout rooms as well. All right. So, what was this process like for you? What was it like exploring these pre-designed websites, pre-designed lesson websites? What did it feel like as a teacher to use these tools, either the pre-design or even a little bit of using Lucid Spark? And what issues do you think might arise in your classroom if you were to use these types of tools? So, go ahead and share your thoughts in the dialog box, and you will need to do so before you move on with the video. And then lastly, a pop-up box will appear before the video ends. Make sure you click on that to go to, or to click on the links in the dialog box to take you to the attendance form and the evaluation form. And thank you for joining us today for the self-paced video. And we hope that you join us for more trainings in the future.